68 years old, soaking wet, thrown out of a bar by men half his age, who called him a fraud. But Chief Jack Bear Malone wasn't alone. His legacy was about to walk through that door and remind everyone why you never disrespect a warrior. Stay until the end. This will shock you.
The rain hit the windows of Riley's bar like bullets on sheet metal, each drop exploding against the glass in the November darkness. Jack Malone sat at the far end of the counter, his calloused hands wrapped around a sweating bottle of Budweiser, the label half peeled from his picking at it for the last 20 minutes. The neon Coors Light sign above the bar flickered, casting his weathered face in blue and red shadows. He was 68 years old and looked every day of it. His fingers traced the faded seal trident patch on his old jacket, the threads coming loose after decades of wear. His fabric smelled like mothballs and memories. He'd pulled it from the back of his closet that morning, thinking maybe wearing it out would make him feel like himself again, like the man he used to be. Instead, sitting here alone on a Friday night, while younger men laughed and lived around him, it just made him feel old. The bartender, a kid maybe 30 with a sleeve of tattoos and a beard that tried too hard, wiped down glasses and avoided looking at Jack. Nobody looked at old men in bars. They were furniture, ghosts, reminders of what was coming for everyone eventually. The door exploded open, and 6 bikers rolled in like a storm, their leather cuts dripping rainwater onto the wooden floor. They were loud in the way that men get when they've already been drinking somewhere else, their voices filling every empty space in the room. The lead biker was a mountain of a man, mid-30s, with a snake tattooed up his neck, and the kind of beard that belonged in a motorcycle magazine. His vest said "Snake" across the back in red letters. His crew fanned out behind him, boots heavy on the floor, and they owned the room in seconds. Jack kept his head down and took another pull from his beer. He'd learned a long time ago that the best way to avoid trouble was to become invisible. Don't make eye contact. Don't react. Just finish your drink and leave. "Damn, it's wet out there," Snake announced to nobody in particular, shaking water from his jacket. His eyes swept the bar, cataloging the Friday night crowd. College kids playing pool in the corner, a couple on a date trying to look interested in each other, the old man at the bar. His gaze stopped on Jack, specifically on the patches visible on his jacket. A grin spread across his face. "Hey boys, check this out." Jack's shoulders tensed. He didn't look up. "Look at this old man playing dress-up," Snake said loud enough for the whole bar to hear. His crew laughed on cue, moving closer. "What have we got here? A costume party I didn't know about?" Jack took another sip of his beer, slower this time, his jaw tight. The bottle felt slippery in his hands. He could feel every eye in the bar turning toward him. Snake moved closer, his boots stopping right next to Jack's stool. "I'm talking to you, Grandpa. Nice jacket. Where'd you get it? Goodwill? Salvation Army?" "Leave him alone," the bartender said, but his voice was weak, uncertain. He was still holding the glass he'd been wiping, frozen between wanting to help and not wanting problems. "I'm just being friendly," Snake said, not taking his eyes off Jack. He reached out and grabbed Jack's jacket, pulling it toward him to examine the patches. The seal trident, the unit designations, the American flag. Navy SEAL, huh? Yeah, right. And I'm an astronaut. One of the other bikers, a shorter guy with a shaved head and a spider web tattooed on his elbow, leaned in. "Dude, my grandma could be a SEAL. Look at this guy." Jack's knuckles went white around his beer bottle. A younger version of himself would have put Snake through the bar top already, would have moved so fast the man wouldn't have seen it coming. But that was 40 years ago. Now his knees ached when it rained. His hands shook from old injuries that never healed right, and he was so goddamn tired. "I don't want trouble," Jack said quietly, still not looking up. His voice was gravel and whiskey. Snake laughed, a harsh bark that filled the room. "Trouble? Old man, you're already in trouble. Stolen valor is a crime. You know that. Pretending to be something you're not." "I'm not pretending anything." "Then prove it." Snake reached out and knocked Jack's beer bottle. It tipped, foam spilling across the bar, soaking into Jack's sleeve. "Come on, Seal, show me something. Do a backflip. Kill me with your bare hands. Isn't that what you guys do?" The bar had gone completely silent, except for the jukebox playing some country song nobody was listening to. The couple on a date stared at their phones. The college kids pretended to line up their next shot. Nobody moved. Nobody helped. Jack finally looked up at Snake, meeting his eyes for the first time. "You need to step back." "Or what?" Snake was smiling, but there was something mean behind it, something that enjoyed this. "What are you going to do, old man? You can barely hold that beer bottle steady. Look at you. You're pathetic." The spiderweb biker grabbed Jack's other arm. "Come on, Snake. Let's just toss him out. He's killing the vibe." "Good idea." Snake grabbed Jack's jacket, his fingers digging into the worn fabric. "Time to go, Grandpa."
Jack could have fought. Part of him wanted to. Muscle memory screamed at him to move, to strike, to defend himself. But he was 68 years old in a bar full of people who didn't care, and these men were younger, and there were 6 of them. Sometimes the smart tactical decision was to retreat. That's what he'd taught his students. Choose your battles. Not every fight is worth having. So he didn't resist when they pulled him off the stool, didn't fight when they dragged him toward the door, his boots scraping against the floor. The bartender said something, maybe a protest, but it was weak, and it didn't matter. Other patrons looked away. This was someone else's problem. The door opened, and the rain hit Jack's face like a slap. They shoved him hard, and he stumbled forward, his bad knee buckling, and he barely caught himself on a parking meter before he went down completely. His jacket flew out behind him, landing in a puddle with a splash. "Stay out, Grandpa," Snake said from the doorway, backlit by the warm glow of the bar. "This bar's for real men, not washed-up has-beens playing soldier." The door slammed shut, and Jack heard the lock click. He stood there, in the rain, water soaking through his shirt in seconds, running down his face and neck. Cold November rain that felt like ice. He bent down slowly, his knee screaming, and picked up his jacket. Water streamed from it, washing over the patches he'd been so proud of once. The seal trident looked dull in the streetlight. Through the bar window he could see them laughing, raising their drinks, celebrating their victory over the old man. His hands started to shake, and this time it wasn't from old injuries. It was something deeper, something that felt like shame and rage mixed together until he couldn't tell them apart. He looked down at his reflection in the puddle at his feet, an old man with thinning gray hair plastered to his skull, deep lines carved into his face from years in the sun and sand and salt water. This was what he'd become. This was what happened to warriors when they got old. They became invisible, disposable, easy targets for younger men who needed to feel powerful. Headlights cut through the rain, bright and sudden. A black SUV pulled up to the curb, new and expensive, water beading on its polished surface. The engine cut off, and 5 men stepped out, all in civilian clothes, jeans and jackets and baseball caps, but they moved differently than regular people. Efficient, aware. The kind of movement that came from training so deep it was instinct. They were laughing about something, celebrating, clearly in a good mood. One of them, athletic build with close-cropped hair, spotted Jack standing there in the rain, and his smile faded. "Hey man, you okay?" Jack waved him off with his free hand, not trusting his voice. "I'm fine." The 5 men headed toward Riley's entrance, still talking among themselves, and Jack turned to walk away. His truck was parked 2 blocks down. He'd go home, take a hot shower, try to forget this night happened. Just another reminder that his time was over. Then he heard it. A voice behind him, sharp with surprise. "Wait, is that a SEAL trident?" Jack stopped walking. The rain pounded on his shoulders. Behind him, footsteps splashed through puddles. Coming closer, he didn't turn around. Couldn't. Because something in that voice sounded familiar, and if he was wrong, if this was just another person about to mock him, he didn't think he could take it. "Sir," the voice was closer now, urgent. "Sir, can you turn around?" Jack turned slowly, water streaming from his hair. The man who had spoken was standing 5 feet away, staring at Jack's face like he had seen a ghost. He was maybe 32, built like a middleweight fighter, with eyes that didn't miss anything. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Chief Malone! Chief Bear Malone?" And just like that, everything changed.
If this story is giving you chills, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you never miss stories of honor, loyalty, and respect. Drop a comment telling us about a veteran in your life who deserves recognition. Let's go. Marcus Chin couldn't breathe. He was standing in the rain staring at a man he never thought he'd see again. A man who'd once made him do burpees until he vomited, who'd screamed in his face that he was weak and soft and would never make it, who'd also pulled him aside after the worst day of Hell Week and told him quietly that he had what it took, that pain was temporary, but quitting lasted forever. Chief Bear Malone, the legend, standing in the rain like a drowning dog. "Marcus?" Jack's voice cracked. "Marcus Chin? That really you?" "Holy shit," Marcus breathed, then louder, turning to his team. "Holy shit! Guys, get over here, now!" The other 4 men rushed over, their celebration forgotten. They formed a circle around Jack in the rain, and one by one their faces changed from confusion to shock to something like joy. "Chief?" Rodriguez, stocky and intense with a scar running through his left eyebrow, pushed forward. "Chief, is that actually you?" "Thompson, look at this. It's Bear. It's actually Bear." Williams, the youngest at 28, just stood there with his mouth open. Jack looked at each of them, his mind racing through faces and names from years ago. Class 287. They'd come through buds together in 2016, all of them cocky kids who thought they were tough until the ocean taught them different. He'd been their chief instructor for Phase 2, the one who taught them small unit tactics and how to think under pressure. He'd watched them ring out one by one until only these 5 and 3 others made it through. He'd shaken their hands at graduation and told them to stay alive out there. "Jesus Christ, you boys grew up," Jack said. And despite everything, despite standing in the rain soaked to the bone after being thrown out of a bar like trash, he smiled. Marcus stepped closer, his eyes scanning Jack's face, his wet clothes, the jacket clutched in his hands. His expression shifted. "Chief, what are you doing out here? Why are you soaking wet?" "Just stepped outside for some air," Jack said, but his voice lacked conviction. "In the pouring rain?" Thompson, the tallest of them at 6'4" with a linebacker's build, wasn't buying it. His eyes moved to the bar, to the door, back to Jack. Rodriguez bent down and picked up Jack's jacket from where he'd dropped it when they surrounded him. Water poured from the fabric. He looked at the muddy puddle it had been in, then at Jack's face. "Chief, who threw you out?" "Nobody threw me out, I just—" "Don't lie to us, Chief," Jackson cut in, his voice hard. He was the quiet one usually, the thinker, but there was steel underneath. "Someone put their hands on you." Jack felt something twist in his chest. These men, his students, looking at him with such fierce loyalty it hurt. He was supposed to be the strong one, the one who taught them. And here they were protecting him, like he was the one who needed saving. "It's nothing," he said firmly.
Just some guys having fun. Happens. I'm old, they're young. That's how it goes. That's how it goes, Marcus's voice rose. Chief, you taught us that rank and age demand respect, that a warrior never stops being a warrior. Remember that? You said that to me when I wanted to quit. You said it doesn't matter how tired you are, how broken you feel, you're still a SEAL, and that means something. Marcus, who, threw you out? Rodriguez's hands had curled into fists. The other four were already moving toward the bar entrance, their body language shifting from celebration to something else entirely. Something dangerous. Jack grabbed Marcus's arm, his grip still strong despite the tremor. Don't do this. It's not worth it. I'm fine. Marcus looked down at Jack's hand, then up at his face. Rain ran between them, mixing with something else on his cheeks that might have been water or might have been something more. You taught us never to leave a teammate behind, Chief. Never. That includes you, especially you. This isn't your fight. The hell it isn't. Marcus gently removed Jack's hand from his arm. You've got about 30 seconds to either come in there with us or wait out here, but we're going in. Thompson already had the door open. Williams and Jackson flanked him like they were breaching a hostile structure. Rodriguez waited for Marcus, his jaw set. These weren't just men anymore. They were operators, and someone had made the mistake of touching their chief. Jack wanted to stop them, wanted to tell them this wasn't necessary, that he could fight his own battles, that he didn't need protection from men half his age. But standing there in the rain, watching these 5 warriors prepare to go to war for him, he realized something. This wasn't about him needing them. This was about them needing to do this for him. For themselves, for every veteran who'd ever been disrespected and had nobody stand up for them. God help those bikers, Jack muttered, and followed his former students through the door. The bar went silent the second they walked in, not the uncertain quiet from before when Jack had been alone and vulnerable. This was different. This was the kind of silence that happens when predators enter a room and everyone else suddenly remembers their prey. Snake was still at the bar, celebrating with his crew. He had Jack's Budweiser in his hand, drinking it, making some joke that died when he felt the temperature change. He turned slowly, annoyed at the interruption, and found himself facing 5 men who stood like they'd been carved from stone. What do you want? Snake tried to sound tough, but there was an edge to his voice now, something uncertain. Marcus stepped forward, water dripping from his jacket onto the floor. His voice was quiet, controlled the way a bomb is controlled right before it detonates. We want to know which one of you put your hands on our Chief Instructor. Snake's eyes flicked to Jack, standing behind the 5 men, then back to Marcus. Your what? That old man you threw out, Thompson's voice scratched through the silence. That's Chief Jack Malone, Navy SEAL, 28 years of service, 3 Purple Hearts, Silver Star, Bronze Star with Valor, 2 deployments to Iraq, 3 to Afghanistan, 1 to Somalia that's still classified. The spiderweb biker's face went pale. Look, we didn't know what? Williams's voice cracked through the silence. He was the youngest, the one who usually let the others talk, but his face was flushed with anger. You threw out a 68-year-old veteran in the pouring rain without bothering to ask who he was? Rodriguez moved to the bar, his movements precise and deliberate. He picked up a napkin, dried his hands carefully, and looked at Snake. That man trained over 2,000 SEALs, including the 5 of us. He taught us how to stay alive, how to think, how to be warriors, and you threw him out like garbage. The bartender, who'd been frozen behind the bar, found his voice. They said he was faking, said the patches were fake. They grabbed him and dragged him to the door. He didn't fight back. He just let it.
Other patrons were nodding now, emboldened by the presence of men who clearly weren't going to let this slide. The college kids stopped pretending to play pool. The couple on the date put their phones away. Everyone watched. Snake tried to recover, tried to find the swagger he'd had 10 minutes ago. We were just messing around, man, having fun. The old guy. The old guy has a name, Marcus cut him off. Chief Malone. And yeah, he's old. You know why? Because he survived things that would have killed you in the first 5 minutes. He's old because he earned it. Thompson pulled out his phone. I'm calling the base. MPs can be here in 10 minutes. Assault on a veteran. They take that seriously. Snake's crew started backing toward the door, but Jackson and Williams shifted position, blocking the exit without seeming to. They weren't threatening, weren't aggressive, just standing there. But the message was clear. That's not necessary, Snake said quickly. His voice had lost all its edge. Look, we made a mistake, okay? We're sorry. You're sorry, Rodriguez repeated flatly. You assaulted a decorated war hero, and now you're sorry. We didn't assault anyone. You put your hands on him and forcibly removed him from this establishment. That's assault. That's also battery. That's also maybe a hate crime, given you targeted him specifically for his military service. The bar was dead silent, except for the rain hammering the windows and that same country song still playing on the jukebox. Snake's face had gone from cocky to calculating to something like panic. His crew looked at him, waiting for him to fix this. Chief Malone, Snake said, turning to face Jack directly for the first time since they'd come back in. We apologize. We were drunk and stupid. We didn't know. You didn't know, Jack said slowly, his voice carrying despite being quiet. But you should have. Not because of who I am specifically, but because of what I represent. You see patches like these, you see a uniform, you see an old man with scars and shaking hands, you should think twice before deciding he's a fake. He moved forward, his students parting to let him through. He stopped 3 feet from Snake and slowly, deliberately, unzipped his jacket. Underneath, his white t-shirt was plastered to his body, and the scars were visible, even in the dim bar light. A bullet wound in his left shoulder, puckered and ugly. Shrapnel marks across his ribs. A long surgical scar down his right side where they'd put him back together after an RPG blast in Fallujah. Qatar, 1998, Jack said, pointing to the shoulder. Extraction gone bad. Took a round, pulling my radio operator out of an ambush. He lived. That's what matters. He touched his ribs. Mogadishu, 1993, supporting Rangers during Gothic Serpent. Hilo went down. These are from the blast. His hand moved to his knee, visible through his wet jeans where the fabric clung. Shattered patella from a training accident. Still train students the next week, on crutches, because SEALs don't take sick days. The bar was completely silent now. Even the jukebox had stopped. I'm not showing you this for sympathy, Jack continued. I'm showing you this because every veteran has a story. Every person who served has scars, visible or not. And before you decide someone's a fake, before you put your hands on them and throw them into the street, maybe you should ask yourself if you've earned the right to judge. Snake couldn't meet his eyes. None of his crew could. Jack turned to Marcus. Put the phone away. Chief, that's an order, petty officer. Marcus hesitated, but old habits ran deep. You didn't disobey a direct order from your chief instructor. He put the phone away. Jack addressed Snake again. You want to make this right? Here's how. From now on, when you see a veteran in a bar, you buy them a drink. You say thank you, you show respect. Not because they're all heroes, some of them aren't, but because they signed up when you didn't. They went when you stayed. They earned consideration. Yes, sir, Snake said quietly. And if you ever see someone disrespecting a veteran again, someone like you were tonight, you shut it down. You stand up. You make it right. That's how you apologize. Not with words, with actions. Snake nodded, his crew nodding behind him. Jack turned away, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was fading, and everything hurt. His knee, his shoulder, his pride. He started toward the door, ready to go home, to end this night, and try to forget it. "Chief!" Marcus's voice stopped him. "Jack, turn back. Marcus! We came here to celebrate. Marcus made SIPO. We're buying drinks, and you're joining us. That's not a request." Rodriguez was already pulling a table together, combining two into one big enough for 6. Williams grabbed chairs. Jackson was at the bar, ordering drinks. They moved with the efficiency of men who'd worked together for years, who knew what needed doing without needing to be told. The bartender brought over 6 beers and a bottle of Jack Daniels. "On the house," he said quietly to Jack. "I'm sorry, I should have done more." "You should have," Jack agreed. "Do better next time." The bartender nodded and retreated. Jack found himself being guided to a chair, surrounded by his former students, and for the first time all night, he felt warm despite his soaking clothes. Snake and his crew were leaving, slinking out quietly, and the rest of the bar was slowly returning to normal. The college kids went back to their game. The couple on the date actually looked at each other. Marcus raised his beer. The others did the same. Jack picked up his hands steadier now. "To Chief Bear Malone, the man who taught us everything." "To the chief," they echoed. Jack shook his head. "No, we don't drink to me." He paused, thinking of faces that weren't here, names on a wall in Virginia Beach, brothers who went out and never came home. To the ones who didn't make it back. Their faces sobered. They knew those names too, had lost teammates of their own. To the ones who didn't make it back, they said together, and drank. And sitting there in Riley's bar, surrounded by men he'd trained to survive in the worst places on earth, Jack Malone didn't feel old anymore. Didn't feel discarded or invisible. He felt like what he'd always been, a chief, an instructor, a SEAL. The rain still hammered the windows, and his clothes were still soaked, and his knee still hurt like hell. But none of that mattered, because he wasn't alone, and he never had been. The night stretched on. They told stories, they laughed, they remembered. And when an older veteran walked in around midnight, looking uncertain and worn, all 6 of them stood up and bought him a drink without saying a word. Because that's what you did. You stood up. You made it right. You never left a brother behind. That was the lesson. That was always the lesson.
If this story moved you, if it made you feel something real, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Veteran stories matter. Their sacrifices matter. And together, we make sure they're never forgotten. What did you think of Chief Malone's response? Comment below. See you in the next one.